Okay.
Okay. We'll open up the Parks Commission evening, July 9th. And we'll
Just pretend I'm Greg. He had another meeting in Gresham, so he's going to be a little late. Okay. So just to recap some of the general updates, we had made the changes to the parks reservation system, kind of changed primarily how we were handling rental of the field. And then, so we kind of broke it down into multiple sections and left an area that's kind of not really reservable so that it's open free space for the community. And then the splash pad playground and restrooms are not included in the rental. They can be used, they just can't be reserved. So that was kind of the layout that we did on the field rentals. Primarily, we rent one. We do have two groups using the ball field. We're kind of excited about that. And occasionally people do rent field 3. Caroline created all these great statistics for you. You can see primary rental is the picnic shelter and then the fields. We do get a lot of kind of larger group activities. Of course, we have the Play East Recreation here, but also like family get-togethers that tend to use the fields. They set up different sports games and stuff like that. And surprisingly enough, Play East is our largest renter, if you will, of the park facilities, and second by Fairview, which is kind of surprising.
City of Fairview?
Yeah, the people that live in Fairview.
In Fairview, okay.
Yes.
Residents of, okay.
Yes, yeah, not the city. Anyways, I think, and then we also transition to the online reservation system for the park facilities. That's been going really well. It's a very minimal annual cost, and it enables people to reserve stuff anytime it's convenient for them, and it makes it a lot easier for staff to manage it. So that was the new reservation system. I don't know if you've noticed, but our park looks a lot different this summer. We have hired, we hired 4 utility staff in February. It's been a bit to go with our 2 existing. We had some staff turnover. We are really thrilled with all of our public works crew. They've been doing a great job out in the park. They've caught up on a lot of the backlog on the vegetation maintenance and just making everything look great. In addition, they continued building the community garden. We did that expansion this year and then put in the pollinator garden. In addition to that, they've also been doing work out in the city on our utilities. They've done sewer manhole sealing, a lot of right-of-way maintenance, repairing a massive water leak that was 17 feet in the ground. So they've done a lot of work in the short amount of time they've been here. So they've been doing a great job, and they really enjoy working here, and especially in the park. We did get some new signage I was supposed to display. So we have our new pick up after your pet signs. And we have our new, this is general rules. These are heavy. And then we have our new ones for the grills to go back on. Some of them have disappeared. So we'll be getting those out in the next month or so. They just came in.
All they have to do is read them, huh?
We can't force people to read them, but at least they'll be out there. So we'll be getting those put up in the not too distant future. The Edible Grove, the Troutdale Historical Society wanted to get with us to put in what they call kind of like a victory garden, and maybe have some historical equipment that they're going to move from site to site. That's kind of their design concept. So city staff has approved that. We sent it back to the Historical Society, so it's kind of next steps are on them.
Are they going to plant that grass and everything?
think, the grass isn't grassy over there? I don't get in that area of the park very much. Yeah,
That's a really wet area.
doubt it's gonna look quite that beautiful, but just the general concept
Yeah.
of having some of the historical equipment and adding to the edible garden, that's what they're looking at doing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'd be very nice. And then the Hawthorne area of the park, we'd mentioned before, we have been working on the overall maintenance of that. It's kind of a tough area, and there's higher priority areas of the park that we work on maintaining first. So we do prioritize the trails and the general park usage areas, the field, the playground, and all that kind of stuff. We had mentioned some potential projects there, like putting in a utility building to store equipment, maybe doing some additional trailhead improvements over there. Everything for that area is kind of paused right now because the city's focused on the future of fire funding, which I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about. So, but we're still keeping it in mind. It's for, future time. We will be getting, I didn't create the presentation either, so bear with me if I kind of jump ahead, but we will be getting a couple of student park workers for the summer through a Reynolds work program. So we're very excited about that because they can do kind of some of the easier maintenance around the park and free up our guys to work on bigger projects. And so the Wetland Park project, we've been working on this for quite a few years. We got the funding, considerable grant funding, thanks to Caroline. And then we started working on updating the wetland delineation for the site. Those are only good for 5 years, so we had to do a new one. In the process, there was the company we hired for that, there was a lot of staff turnover, so it got a little bit delayed. But in the process of working on the joint permit application, we realized that the plans were not the original plans done in 2020 were not as detailed as they needed to be. He put 20%. It's actually what we were told was they were about a 30% plan set, which if we had gone out to bid with would not have been a good idea. That just adds to a lot of change orders and problems down the road. So we decided to kind of pause while we're waiting for the delineation update to be approved by Department of State Lands. We've been working on the design for the past several months with a different company. So this here is the original kind of concept plan, that Half Moon pathway through the wetland. And it really just called for all of the vegetation to be removed and replaced. The new design concept has kind of see if I can do the mouse here. So it's got 3 different entrances, and then it's got like a main trail and then some side trails kind of looping around more. And then a lot of this area here with the crosses, that's actually vegetation that is good to have in the wetlands that will be kept with this new design concept. So the company we hired her, they went out there, they did a pretty lengthy on-site visit, looked over the plants and came up with a really good plan for keeping some of the groups of existing vegetation. That's really good for the wetland overall and the habitat for animals. So we're very excited about the new plan. They're getting close to completing design. We added some structural work because all three of these entrances are elevated. There's a ditch that goes all the way around the perimeter. So their suggestion was it's better to have the structural plans in place first before you go out to bid. So that's part of it. And they also can't quite finalize until we get the final delineation, which will hopefully be any time now. It got submitted in January, so see how that goes.
Becky, can I ask a question about it?
Yeah.
Is there any dry land in this,
So it's not, let me see how I put it. So there's kind of two components to this parcel. So we have like this huge chunk here is wetlands. And also it goes way down here.
oh, wow, okay.
So part of and that's why we have to go through the joint permitting and we're kind of limited in what we can put there. So it's like primarily we're just looking at paths. Maybe there are some little pockets where we can maybe put in some picnic tables or benches kind of
Okay.
for viewing spots. The more you try to dig or put footings or other materials in a wetland area, they don't like. So the wetland is a big chunk of that. The second piece is that when the dog track entire parcel was modified to create the town center area, part of the site became a wetland mitigation area. So like this chunk here is actually, it's not necessarily wetland per se, but it's reserved because it's a mitigation area. So very limited at the site as far as there's not really a lot of free space to do anything in, except kind of have a nature path viewing area. Like I said, we're going to try, and that may, depending on what the project bid comes in at, like the picnic tables and benches, maybe more like a phase 2. Our original thought was, you could have like a nice big picnic area or maybe some kind of play structure, but yeah, it's very restricted land.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, yeah. Any other questions on
I
that?
think when you have a picnic area, it gets messy. People
Yes.
are messy.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't like to see this place messy. It's natural.
Mhm.
Use it to, walk on, view things.
Yeah. And I think, most of the little cutouts that they have in here are kind of, the thought is like a bench or some kind of like natural little rock type seating area,
Yeah.
just kind of little resting areas like that. The path, most of the path is going to be 8 foot wide. There are sections that are going to be 6 foot. They're a little more constrained, especially on that northern section. And it will be all ADA accessible. So, and we're still planning additional community outreach on the gateway features and the signage. And then we're hoping to have community involvement in part of the planting, either helping to remove areas and plant some of the new areas. So that is the plan. And we're hoping to get this bid the beginning of next year so that we can do this work. Oh, there they are. So that we can do this work next summer
Oh, wow. That's good.
during the dry season. You are really late.
I am right on time.
Darn it, I missed it. I told him I'd have this done before he got here, but
Sorry, we asked a question.
I was just finishing on the wetland park update. So I think I already went over most of the highlights. We're very excited about the new design. We had also had the plant list modified slightly from the original plant list. We worked with the Grand Ron and the Wisdom of the Elders to get more culturally relevant plants in there. So that part got redone as well. And we're hoping, like I said, to have this constructed next summer. Do you want me to do the CDBG? I might as well. So our CDBG, we did get the $80,000 grant award from the county. The plan is to do an ADA crossing to connect the ADA pathway we did with the last grant to the new restrooms. That drive aisle there is sloped in multiple directions. So while you have a lovely ADA path on one side, once you hit the drive aisle, you're kind of all over the place. So we're looking to make that connection, finish that off. And then we're also going to restore the ball field area. So it's been how many years since? Been a long time since real work's been done on that. So yeah. So they're going to be removing a few inches and putting in the appropriate type of play soil for that. So we're hoping to get those projects going soon. While the county has awarded us the grant, they have not received the final confirmation from HUD, and they are in the process of HUD does an environmental assessment review every 5 years. So they're working on that process. Might delay things a little bit, but we still should be able to get these both done by the end of the fiscal year. All right, I will hand that over to you.
Oh, excuse my tardiness. I was with the mayor.
It's my fault.
We'll
Problems.
forgive then.
Thank you, thank you.
So as you've hopefully seen, we were able to expand our community garden thanks to a grant from the East Multnomah Soil Water Conservation District. So we had 12 plots originally. We added an additional 8, but an all-in matching aesthetic to the original. So there's 20 plots, all actively reserved in the growing phase. We continued our contract with Outgrowing Hunger. That's the entity that's managing it all. So they both manage, any kind of gardener to gardener complaints or issues, but also make sure that gardeners are doing their share of the general upkeep, the maintenance, not just on their plot, but kind of the garden as a whole. And then they also do occasional either workshops or lessons and things. So it's kind of a holistic component. We also partnered with the Rockwood Tool Library and the Reynolds Transitions Program for the little seed library that's out there. So the Rockwood Library designed it, did all the cutting, and then helped the transition students actually construct it. So it's kind of a fun hands-on activity for those students. And it's actually the Transitions Program keeps it well stocked with seeds and things. So they have their own growing program that they do as a fundraiser, and then leftover seeds they donate to our seed library. Now, we learned a lot of lessons when we built the first phase of the garden. So as we built the second one, it actually didn't cost as much as we originally thought through those efficiencies. So there were some remaining grant funds that the Soil and Water Conservation said, yeah, do a pollinator garden. So we have a pollinator garden that's about 1,500 square feet, give or take, over 700 plants, mostly natives. Some I'll call them hybrid natives. They're very pollinator friendly, but may not be considered natives. And this multiple beneficials. One, it's great for around the garden space, but it creates habitat and food for our pollinator friends, and a great spot to increase our biodiversity and education engagement opportunities about, our pollinator friends and what people could do at home to support pollinators. Now, this was news to me on May 12th, and yes, tears were shed. There's witnesses. The council decided to dedicate it after my wife, Kirsten, who passed in December, who had actually still has several pollinator gardens at our home, and she loved pollinators. So while right now it's kind of lacking in the signage and some artwork through some donations and other contributions, and I have some photos on the next slide of a very large butterfly bench that'll kind of be a focal center point, kind of half art, half functional educational signage. And I'm calling it playful art because it's kind of, like happy looking bees or that type of thing. So here's the plant list where you can see the vast majority of, the truly native ones, and then maybe not native, but certainly not invasive, but certainly helpful for our pollinator friends. This is a picture of the bench. So it's 5 feet tall from ground to wingtip and 7 feet across wingtip to wingtip. Hopefully, they said, 4 to 8 week lead time. So next week is 8 weeks. So hopefully in the next several weeks we can have it. And then through a kind of a startup maker space that does small batch and prototyping, kind of 3D printed pollinator critters that can be attached to, again, educational signs. Like I thought, the little bee guy, let's be friends. It could be the sign and then talks about, why bees are good and what you could do at home. Sorry, Becky. Any questions about yes?
Couple questions. Regarding the community garden, we are friends with the neighbors who are right next, just adjacent property to the community garden. And I know that they have noticed on occasion some thefts of food from the garden. Has
Yeah.
that become a big issue? People complained about that?
We had some earlier complaints more before the gates were installed.
That might have.
And then now we have gates, additional signage. It's always a concern with any community garden. I don't think we've heard anything lately.
Not enough producing quite, not enough to harvest yet, maybe.
I mean, and that is, let's wait till, there's a big ripe tomato or, something and see what happens. Historically hasn't been a big issue. An issue, yes, but not to the overall detriment of the program.
Yeah, good, because I know we saw some new signage and maybe it's just something to keep an eye on if people complain. Even a sign like,
Well, and with the gate, like, no, this is a special place, not necessarily an open space.
Yeah.
Versus like the edible grow, for example. It's like, no, this is open. Do
different.
different, exactly.
My second question is about the arborvitae that died.
Yeah.
More plans to put them in again?
They didn't seem to like that area, so it wasn't necessarily like a lack of watering.
Oh, wasn't it? I thought they would have, I thought they just dried up.
No,
just-
that area there is actually very wet. They had a very difficult time installing the section of the fence that they did. He had to go down like 4 feet to get a solid base for that fence because it is so saturated right there.
Yeah, the thing actually just got kind of swamped out or
Yes.
rotted. So we're
Yeah.
trying some different variations of lower cost fencing or screening. So before the community garden, that fence was, you could just clearly see in their yard,
Yeah.
there used to be a big fluffy white dog there. But with kind of and the trail went past there, but now at the more active space, we certainly wanted to screen from the garden itself. And now we're trying to find ways on that corner, both
Yeah.
from, I think, a park aesthetic and then just being a good neighbor.
Right.
So we're trying out different options. Work in progress on that specific piece.
Thank you.
The pollinator garden is blooming.
I know, it's just missing some art and signs, but hopefully, I think end of August into September, I think we'll start seeing some of those start popping up. And again, the bench whenever it arrives.
And I think the thievery that goes on with community gardens, it happens at Wood Village Baptist too.
Mhm.
Of course,
Yeah, I think it's, pick any community garden unless it's
gonna
completely
happen.
isolated.
well, those thieves are going to be going straight to hell, so I'm okay with it.
Fair else on the community garden or pollinator garden? All right, don't be thieving from it, I guess.
Take that as a warning.
So update on our playground work. So in 2024, cities, we need to start looking at replacing that. You know, that structure is over 20 years old. We hadn't until then had an accumulator fund like we do for a lot of our larger capital replacement projects. So we seeded it with a larger chunk to start, and then we're doing annual increments in this current fiscal year, which started, a week ago. We're at $220,000. I think we're trying to target somewhere around the 300 mark. Hopefully we can get some grants. While we weren't successful with a state parks grant for our wetland park, what we've seen is playgrounds, especially if you have some sort of, active play and ADA accessibility, they seem to really love those. I'm looking at Caroline because she was with me at the presentation, and we were scheming on how to actually get money next time. So we thought the playground could be a good feature for that. So the true cost depends on how big, how complex, but in previous discussions with you all, what helps keeps cost reasonable. No, we can keep the engineered wood fiber. We don't need to go with that kind of artificial rubberized surface, have it kind of be natural. You also said you really wanted kids to weigh in on what it is or isn't. And so we've been doing that over the last couple of years. So the first one last Easter in 2025, the big question was, hey, we've got two areas of swings, kind of one for big kids, one for little kids, and kind of separated out the play structures. We said, do you like that? Or would you rather have like an area of swings and a bigger playground, still with an option for like a playground for, toddlers, but kind of combine the swings? And overwhelmingly, it was we want a bigger structure. So we can remove one set of the swings to accommodate more stuff. And in terms of the stuff, that's what we asked this past Easter. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I was surprised. They just wanted everything. Give us everything, the slides, the games, the climbing, the swinging, challenge spaces. That's like your rope bridge or your hard to navigate things. A lot of interest in nature play. And we'll kind of touch on that towards the end where that might fit in. Certainly not necessarily in the playground itself, but it did show there's a lot of interest in the kind of that nature play concept. So what does this all mean for moving forward the playground? Next fiscal year, I think when we're targeting actually getting some designs out there. So again, obviously community input, kind of what's the mix of all of it. That also then helps with costing and then the ability to get grants. So then we can work on that work next fiscal year for the following, looking at actually building it out. So we're really just a couple years out from replacing that with something that hopefully again will last 20 to 30 years and be meaningful to the community. So this leads us to kind of, again, touching on a few things. Again, with the different relative priorities and cost concerns, mostly around public safety and some other in the works projects, something that we've talked about and want to keep kind of in the background of your mind is that Grove area where the gazebo is. So not so much like the picnic one, that's pretty well activated, but everything kind of north of the picnic area, the gazebo kind of towards Halsey. What is that space? Because right now it's lesser defined and there's been, a number of ideas. It ranges from, the pump track, which didn't really get a lot of excitement. Could that be an opportunity for some nature play as you transition from, I'll call it like a suburban playground? Can some of that be incorporated into nature play? So there's kind of two playgrounds right there. There also is, a decent potential opportunity for a sport court in that area, whether it's for pickleball, futsal, basketball combo court. A couple years ago, the city took on kind of a feasibility architectural analysis on a multi-use kind of court, but it was going to be in the upper parking lot space. It really didn't work at all. But in looking at that space, it's relatively flat. And with the exception of one tree that honestly isn't in the greatest of health, we had an action arborist out last week, mostly looking at, I call them widow makers, in the taller trees, but they're also pointing out, ooh, some of these trees just aren't doing well anymore for a variety of reasons, not necessarily any neglect, just when they're that old and they start competing with each other, some make it, some don't. So, and one of those trees is actually kind of in the middle of what could be a pretty intriguing spot for a sport court within a natural tree canopy, whether it's for shade or, a bit of rain protection. So don't need to decide anything right now because there certainly isn't the budget, and with the public safety priorities, this is, probably several years down the road. Also worth starting to think about and mulling over, what is the purpose of the Grove and what opportunities could we provide, or do you want to provide? So just tossing that out there is kind of that seed to keep thinking about, because it really is not defined yet. And then lastly, we have our night out next Friday. Hope you can all make it at the Wood Village Baptist Church. Starts at 5 o'clock. Historic trolley tours this year of around the city done by the Troutdale Historical Society. So excited about that. And just what other questions, thoughts, concerns do you have? We could start with just park related, and then, certainly open up to other city related business or activities.
Park related. I really get tired of people letting their dogs poop and not picking it up, and also letting them off leash. Now, if we've got a couple students coming in to work in the park. Would it be possible to have them have little warning things to walk over to these people and say, hey, this is not an off-leash park, and hey, your dog did it over there. There's the bag. Would it be possible?
I would, it's a good question. I wouldn't necessarily think for the students, just because, we're trying to get them to like work. But certainly a discussion with our team that's regularly in the park. Can they have something kind of as part of their stuff they carry around, says, hey, FYI, like this isn't an off-leash dog park. Hey, there are other park guests, or can you pick up after your pet?
Just a simple
But,
suggestion.
and we did notice, I don't know if it was mentioned, but a lot of our signs had walked away over the past year. So again, I think a lot of people want to do the right thing and do good. Some just need reminders.
Yeah, we have a lot of people in the park, and these are repeat offenders, and I walk my dog on a leash, and this other dog comes running over, charging, and she gets all nasty because she doesn't want the dog over
Yeah.
there, and somebody's dog is going to get hurt one of
Well,
these days.
I don't know if it's still an active dog park. I know Troutdale had one or two of them. It might be worth also on that notice, like, hey, here's some other
Yeah,
area dog
That'd be
parks.
good.
Another
That'd be
thing
good.
might be a threat of the potential of an attack from coyotes. Because
Mm-hmm.
one followed us the other day. They're all over now. I see them probably once a week.
Oh, they had babies, that's why.
I was at a couple of parks out of state the last few weeks, and they actually at their public park say, hey, coyotes in the area, keep
Yeah.
pets on a leach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a legitimate reason to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Keep kids on a leash.
Put your signs up.
Keep your kids out.
I mean, I don't want
Some dogs and say, this dog's missing, maybe.
Yeah, something. I mean, people
I don't
should
want
be
people to
aware
be
of that.
afraid of being in the park, which
That'd be
sometimes
awful.
kind of-
It'd be coyotes in the air, keep pets on a leash, missing pet.
Better than going to hell.
Well, coyotes aren't gonna hurt you. They might hurt a small dog.
Yeah,
right?
no.
No, they hurt large animals of all kind and people who don't follow rules.
Oh, those ones.
Yeah, those ones.
Yes.
Here.
It's gonna hurt them.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Oh, it's about the park.
One more comment. I'm sorry if this is petty, but you probably know it, you hear it. The swings are super squeaky. I mean, have you guys heard it?
No.
It,
Anything
It-
they're just, yeah.
they get so much use, and then with the I'll call atmospheric conditions, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
make excuses, but if you're not
Get gunky.
with their height, it's not just simply you can just walk by and, I mean, it's
Yeah.
I want to say it's a process. I'm not saying we can't do it. It's also relative priorities sometimes when it's
I
like
get you.
full garbage cans or squeaky swings.
It's slightly annoying just walking through, but I imagine if I was having a family picnic, I'd be really annoyed if I was trying to enjoy the day and there's these, loud noises. Anyway,
Yeah, no, we can hear it from here sometimes.
I'm sure, yeah, I hear it just walking right by here.
You know, and whether it's WD-40, graphite spray, I mean, it works for so long and then it's
All right, I just wanted to share that. So.
else. City, park,
Fire.
fire. Come to the night out, because we'll have fire headquarters, so some, I'll call it new information, but certainly some opportunities to share any personal stories or concerns. We're doing community-based CPR training as well. You don't get certified, but you get to learn how to do it, which may be important because the draft county ambulance service plan has a 15-minute response time now for the 3 cities. Yeah, so knowing how to do CPR might, literally
Save
save
a life.
a life. Now, I say that we've already are working with the county on saying, well, working with the county and the state to say this is not acceptable, this is not okay. In terms of fire service itself, we just got done with our regional fire meeting, and we're looking at the work group itself will take August off, but there'll be a select group of folks essentially diagramming out what it is we need, and that's both in terms of station, general station location, the composition of those stations, and a general framework of how it's ran, operated in the services. That will then be kind of the benchmark for other entities to, if they want to bid on that. While we're saying this is preferred, it's not exclusive. So if they have other thoughts, ideas, because along with that, we're giving information about here are the current station locations, here is the current call demand and type of those stations, and as well as kind of the service area. So it could be that another district says, neat idea, if we do it this way, we think, you get a different service level. So all that with the goal of, I'll just say by the end of the calendar year, that work group has made, I'll call it a recommendation. It still may be a split recommendation, but there's a recommendation that goes to each respective council to say, this is the path forward that we're moving on. And I'm almost certain that it will be a tiered or phased approach, at least as Gresham's concerned, because they are multifold. One, since they currently have the firefighters, the apparatus, the assets, whether it's starting a new district or consolidating with a different district, there's a lot of work involved with that on how those assets and liabilities transfer and what does that mean. So a lot of work over there, just that alone. They realize that work can take some time. Their levy expires, May of 29. So they're focusing on, we need to renew this levy. I think their goal will be to continue the education of the services, the demands, the needs through the levy process, but don't want to confound it with a district discussion. So their movement towards the district is going to be later versus, for the 3 cities, let's say we're just more nimble for simply the fact that we don't have anything. So it's a different conversation, but how that works for tiers or the assumptions do matter. And I'll just give this as just a blanket example. District 10, they've shown interest in wanting to be running a fire district again, not just kind of on paper. Well, if their assumption is we're going to use Gresham firefighters to do that, that probably doesn't work as well if Gresham's later down the line. So that would have to be kind of understood of, okay, District 10, if you've got thoughts about you want to be district again, you have no staff, you have very few apparatus, you have no support or admin. How are you going to do it if Gresham's doing this? And that doesn't mean that over the course of time, it may not consolidate. But for the short term, if the 3 cities say, hey, this is the option, how's it going to be served? So those are the things still to work out. Interestingly enough, the first half of the meeting was there were focus groups on the 27th. Oh, were you one of them?
I happen to have been one.
Oh.
Isn't that wild? They were performed by a research group that I've done other survey work with. So yeah, that's why I was eager to ask, because what they presented was a little different than what you just said.
Well, and kind of purposefully, because they wanted, I guess, first gut reactions for people and then kind of walk them through this is what we were told and our understanding of it. Cause I did review kind of their discussion questions and, very broad level, how's your local government and what do you think about taxes and da, 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 da. And then it got into the fire district and what it really confirmed, I think, at least from the council perspective, because we do more of the work than on the general community board perspective. Education, education, education.
That's what I'd say.
All the way from when you get a property tax bill, I'll just say that $5,000 doesn't all go to the city, maybe 20% of that goes to the city. The rest goes to, county, metro, Reynolds, Mount Hood, flood. It goes to everywhere else. But when you think tax rate, oh, the city's is $3.12. This is $2.85. My tax bill is going to double. Well, no, you're not going from 5,000 to 10,000. You'd be going from, some increment.
I think it was partly that it was poorly presented by the research staff.
Well,
Because they gave us just that small portion of those long list of all their taxes. They
yes.
compared the small portion we pay for the city of Wood Village
Mhm.
and doubled it for a whole new tax district. And they didn't give the context that you just described.
Well, and I think that also shows the work we need to do with that, because that's, I think, the natural reaction for people, which I think is actually, they were intentional in how they did it. Because people don't normally think, oh, well, this is my city tax rate, this is my city total, and this is what this would pay.
Right.
So we need to help with that, which we're currently working on. The other piece just a piece on that. The other outreach is your market value is not your taxable value. And we already learned that from some of the open houses we did and helping people understand, yeah, your market went up high. That's not why your taxes went up. It's not related at all. Here's where you can look to find your assessed value. Here's where you can then do the math to see what it would cost you.
You know what you might want to dig into in that research is less about the money, because I don't think ever in society will we educate people about their taxes. And I don't think we should try, frankly. Taxes are taxes. But what did spur people's interests was fire prevention, education, response times.
Your response time is the biggest mover.
Those things, they didn't initially, because I had knowledge about it. I shared what I knew and was passionate about it. So I think it might have helped in our group anyway. But they were mostly unaware of any potential problems. A lot of assumptions,
Yes.
taking for granted. Well, you
Yes.
read the results, I guess, But
We got the top lines. We won't get the full report for another week or two. But again, it just reaffirmed, and this even goes back 6 years when we had a different fire task force that got sidelined. It was a lot of, well, the fire needs all this. And I actually brought up the point of the community sets the expectation. You could have your standards and your NFPAs and da, 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 da. If the community said the service is fine, they're going to say it's fine. Why am I going to pay more? We have to tell the story of it may be fine today. It won't be tomorrow. And
Right.
here's why.
we talked about that. Yeah.
And, response times matter. So that means, additional stations, additional equipment. We have to tell the story of you're not paying more for the same or less. You're paying more to get more. That's not just on the fire side. That needs to be on the city side as well. And
Yeah.
how we are already good stewards of the money. I like to believe we're good stewards of the money. We need to tell that story because again, it's too easy to think taxes, waste, government bloat. How are you being efficient?
The other thing about the money that people didn't understand is that one of the questions specifically said that the portion of the taxes you pay to your city that they spend on fire will be freed up, that was the language, to be used for other things. So a lot of people are like, well, why don't they just use it for fire? Then I don't have to pay as much. It was an obvious,
And it's funny because that's been the exact direction from our council here is we've historically been paying, I'm not going to say what we're currently paying over 800, but historically, some around 550, 100,000 a year for fire. Well, why don't we keep contributing that through basically not collecting all of our permanent rate? So the city's rate you'd pay would go down. You're paying the full amount for fire, but your net effective is only that increment. Because always paid for fire. So let's,
Just that language, even if you didn't have to do the math, even if you were just saying that the city was contributing, I think that would appease.
that's what we're working. Again, we've got a PR firm that we're working on the messaging. And in fact, next Friday, we're doing recording for video series about all of those topics. Because we've seen, surveys are nice, focus groups help, open houses have kind of worked their way out. We need to get in front of our community, and love it, hate it, through technology, you can actually target geographical people and what they're watching, where they're watching it from, whether it's, streaming services, Facebook, or other types of, media. And through, 10, 15, 30-second clips, start, I don't want to say saturating, but getting those messages out there. That newsletter, continuing events. And again, it's just that education of why this is needed and what we're doing about it. But again, we are in a different space than our neighbors. I'm not saying anything against them. At least for Fairview has said, they have to collect their full rate and keep, their current fee in place, even with the district. I think that's going to be a very different campaign than ours, which was like, yes, we need some help to retain, both city services and gain in these essential public safety services. And we're trying to do our part about, again, keeping it as affordable as possible. Because the thought is, great, let's get this district going. Let's try to lower our collection rate and then engage the community. Like, okay, if you all want some extra services, there is a potential pot for that. Or it just allows the city as a city to no longer be hamstrung by the 3% a year. We can, inflation was a bit high this year. Let's, increase it by inflation. And so we should be good for the next 30 plus years, both in terms of public safety and core city services. That's the goal.
And I think something that staff's been doing really well of is, council's been in front of this for probably over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But the last 2 years, it's been really engaging the community and sharing information. So it's, it's bits and pieces here and there, but it's still continuous over that course of that time. And I think that's important because when it does come time, it's not like, well, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. It's like, well, I remember, I see that. And so just those small pieces, like you mentioned, you remember those open houses, right? And so like, that's the goal, that they remember something they heard directly from us versus directed from somebody else.
Building their knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Else. I know Becky's going to side on me for saying else versus meeting adjourned. But I'm going to say that. That'd be.
You adjourn.
Thank you all very much for your time. I know it's a beautiful day out.